Kristen here, sports dietitian, certified personal trainer, and founder of Elite Nutrition Performance. And today we're going to be talking all about the essential pre and post workout nutrition tips for female athletes. So nutrition is not just what you eat on a day-to-day basis. It is not just what you eat, before your workout and after your workout. That is important, but when you eat is very important as well. So that's why we're going to be talking about pre and post workout nutrition. And so there's going to be, the pre-workout is going to be a little bit different than the post-workout, and we're going to discuss the difference between the two, but also know that what you are eating on a day-to-day basis is very important. And so if your day-to-day eating is not where it needs to be, then I highly suggest you go back and listen to some prior episodes on balancing your plate, and I will drop the link below in the show notes for you, because that is very important. Think about it. That is the majority of your diet, and the majority of your diet is going to make a big difference. If you do have that down, then we definitely want to dive into pre and post workout fueling, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So as a female, your nutrition needs, as I always say, are going to be different than a male. And so we are going to require, to shift things around depending on the time of the month and, how you are feeling. But then also if you're a little bit of an older female, when you're getting into perimenopause and menopause, things are going to change for you as opposed to if you are a teen or, in your 20s. So I get this a lot with women that are in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, that things do not work the same as they did when they were in their 20s. And that is absolutely true. And that is because at that point, you are losing muscle mass at the rate of about 8% per decade, which is huge, and your hormones are shifting, and so you are now gaining more fat and losing muscle mass, which is a double whammy, and that is not helping with your performance goals either. Not only is it not helping with your body composition goals, but it's not helping with your performance goals either. So we want to really make sure that we are getting in the proper nutrients before and after training so that we can maximize our results from training. So it's really important with pre-workout fueling that we are taking in fuel before training. I would say ideally within an hour. The more sensitive your stomach is to eating before training, the further you could push it out, but the bigger your meal is going to be. So ideally, I would say within an hour, you're going to eat something. And basically what pre-workout fuel is going to do is it's going to give your body a little bit of fuel to make it through your workout. So your body's going to take the fuel that you have in your stomach, or circulating in your bloodstream, like your glucose, and also, your a little bit of protein that you have, that's going to be used as a fuel source. But once your body runs out of that, it's going to pull glycogen from your liver and your muscles. So that's the storage form of glucose. And also, if it's not getting enough, what it's going to use? It's going to use your muscle, which we don't want to have happen, because muscle is going to produce power, it's going to produce speed, and that also is going to help us have a better workout so that we can adapt to our workout better. So if we give our bodies a little bit of fuel before the training session, that's going to help us during that training session so that our body's not resorting to using our muscle mass as a fuel source, or you're just completely running out of energy and you feel like trash during that workout. So we want to, like I said, ideally eat within an hour of your training session, but if you can't stomach that, you can push it out 2 or even 3 hours. It just needs to look more like a meal at that point. So to put that in perspective, what that would look like is if you're going to be eating more of a meal, you're going to be eating more like 25 to 35 grams of protein at that meal, and your carbohydrates are really going to vary depending on what your sport is, and then also how far out you are and what kind of activity that you're going to be doing that day. So like if you're an endurance athlete, you're going to require more carbohydrates. but also keep in mind that if you are a little bit older, you don't need quite as many carbohydrates as a 20-year-old. This is where you want to work with a sports dietitian to really hone in on your exact needs, okay? So it's going to be a little bit different, but I will say protein across the board is really going to be about 25 to 35 grams for your meal. And then if you're going to be having more of a snack prior to a strength training workout, now you want to aim for about 15 to 20 grams of protein within that hour prior to your strength training workout. And basically what that's doing is it's giving you those branched chain amino acids, and that is going to be giving a little bit of fuel to your body so that it's not going to be giving or not taking away from your muscle mass. So you want those circulating branched chain amino acids during your workouts, and that's actually going to help with recovery from your workout. Believe it or not, your pre-workout snack is going to help with your recovery. Now, if you are going to be doing more of an endurance type workout, then you actually can change that just a little bit. So you know what? I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. You want 30 grams of protein, roughly about, before your strength training workout. If you're an endurance athlete, it's 15 grams. I apologize on that. I messed that up. So if it's going to be endurance, you can lessen the protein because you're going to be eating more carbohydrates, okay? So strength training, aim for about 30 grams of protein before. And then if it's going to be, more endurance, so endurance is going to be more 15 and strength training is going to be more like 30. You want to make room for the carbohydrates, and carbohydrates you're going to be getting in around 30 grams to 40 grams of carbohydrates prior to your training session. And again, that's also going to be a little bit dependent on you, but just as a broad general statement for most people, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 grams. Now, let's say you're going to be doing strength training and you're going to be doing, let's say, like some steady state cardio. Maybe you're going to do a 30-minute run and you're going to do a 30-minute weight training session. Then you can change that again a little bit so that you are aiming for about 15 grams of protein and about 30 grams of carbohydrates, okay? So basically the more intense that you're going to be doing, you're going to require more carbohydrates and more protein. And then if you're going to be doing not, as much intense, you can decrease the carbohydrates, and you can also actually decrease the protein just a little bit. And this is something that you can really play around with and see what works best for you, because everybody's going to be different, right? Not what works for one person is going to work for the other person. So we really want to make sure that we are experimenting with this and seeing what works for us. We also want to make sure that we are getting in hydration. You do not want to go into your training session dehydrated. That is like shooting yourself in the foot. So if you are not getting in at least half of your body weight in ounces of fluid per day, that is where I would start, okay? So if you are getting in that amount, then what I would suggest doing is taking in about 16 to 20 ounces of fluid pre-workout as a, top off your hydration stores within that hour prior to your training session, and then going about your day, making sure that you're getting in the other parts of the day, okay? So what are some sources of your protein that you can get in prior to a workout? You can get in anything from dairy. That's a great source of protein, like, Greek yogurt and some blueberries and some granola. That's great. You don't want a lot of fiber in that meal, so you don't want to have, your fiber 1 bar or something like that before a workout, but, Greek yogurt with some blueberries and granola would work perfectly well. You could do a glass of milk and have that with, some cereal. You can, do cereal and milk. You could have a glass of milk with an apple and a little bit of peanut butter on it, or a banana with a little bit of peanut butter on it. Those were all are great suggestions. You can, if this is going to be more of a meal, then you could do something like, a piece of chicken with some brown rice and some vegetables. That's fine. If it's further out, you could do more fiber. If it's closer to the meal, you want to do less fiber. Okay. So now when we get into post-workout nutrition, we want to make sure that we are really eating within 30 minutes of finishing our training session. So men can actually push this out. They can push it out for a couple hours. Females cannot. If you want to build muscle and get better from your training session, you really want to make sure that you are eating as close to your training session as possible. So that means within 30 minutes ideally, and that's going to help with muscle protein synthesis, and that is where you are going to be basically building muscle and adapting to your training session and getting better. So what do we want to eat after a training session? We want to focus on carbohydrates and we want to focus on protein again. You don't want a lot of fat here because fat is going to slow down the digestion of your food, and so it's not going to get into your bloodstream and to, all the areas that you want to recover, those working muscles that you want to recover. And also we don't want a lot of fiber either because that's again going to slow down the digestion. So we want to focus on carbohydrates that are lower fiber. So this would be where you could have white bread or white rice or, something along those lines. And then protein. So protein, again, you want to aim for about 25, 30 grams of protein after your training session. But if you are doing an endurance type training session or a HIIT training session, now you want to add in an additional, 30 to 40 grams of carbohydrates after that training session as well. So what does that look like? That could be a sandwich. So 2 slices of bread is about 30 grams of carbohydrates with maybe about 4 ounces of chicken on it. And I'm saying specifically chicken, not deli meat, because deli meat has less protein in there because of all the fillers in there. So you could have a nice chicken sandwich, or you could do something like, if you didn't have the Greek yogurt before, you could do the Greek yogurt. Make sure that it is like a full cup of Greek yogurt, not like the little individual cups. That is not enough. A full cup of Greek yogurt with some fruit and some granola. You've probably heard of chocolate milk. You can certainly do chocolate milk. It's just not going to be enough protein, so you need an additional protein source. So what you could do is you could actually make a smoothie out of this. So you could, I'm sorry if you hear my dog barking in the back. You could do a chocolate smoothie that has Greek yogurt, milk, or you could do, some whey protein in there. That's fine too. You could throw a banana in there. That would give you about 30 grams of carbohydrates. And maybe you want to put a little bit of peanut butter in there. Not much, just a little bit, and some cocoa powder. There you go. So one of the things that's really important post-workout is getting in leucine. And leucine is one of those branched chain amino acids that is going to flip on the light switch to building muscle. And it's really important. So you really want to aim for about 6 grams of leucine post-workout for female athletes. So if you're taking in 40 grams of whey protein, for example, that's going to give you about 7 grams, which is great. Now, if you are a vegetarian or a vegan and you don't want to do whey protein, let's say you're going to be doing a pea protein, for the same amount, 40 grams of pea protein, you're only going to be getting about 5.5 grams of leucine. And so basically it's just not as ideal as a whey protein. So what you could do then is make sure that you're taking in a separate branched chain amino acid supplement to make up the rest of it. Okay. So like I said, we want to eat within an hour pre-workout and then 30 minutes post-workout for the ideal situation here. Okay. So let's talk about some common myths and misconceptions. So, carbohydrates are bad. They're probably the number one thing that I hear, and you're probably hearing the same thing. In this situation, you need carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is going to help you recover from your training session. It's going to help put glycogen back into your liver and your muscles, which is going to then help you when you are recovering for your next training session. Okay, so that is very, very important. Calories. People think, oh, I don't really need to eat that many calories. I really didn't do that much. And that's also not true. When you are training, you need more calories. I said in a past video that you need about 45 kilograms 45 calories per kilogram of fat-free mass. So if you don't know what your fat-free mass is, you could just simplify and say you need 40 calories per kilogram. So take your weight divided by 2.2. That's how many kilograms you need. Multiply that by 40. So if you are not getting enough of that over the course of the day, and especially allocating a good amount of that to pre and post-workout fueling, now you are not really going to be benefiting as much as you could be from your training session. So you want to make sure that you are eating enough before and after a training session. So put that in perspective, you would probably need somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 500 calories before and after a training session. All right. So let's just talk about some quick meal ideas, that you can have if you are a busy athlete, because I know a lot of you are. So like I said, you could do the Greek yogurt, fruit, and granola. You could also have that chicken sandwich that I mentioned. You could do white rice. This, again, is pre or post-workout fueling. White rice with about 4 ounces of some type of meat. If you are not much of a meat eater, you can certainly do the pea protein shake. Just add a little bit of branched chain amino acids to it, and then you can add, some fruit in there or some oatmeal, blend it all up into a nice smoothie, and there you go. I would make sure that you are bringing food with you for your post-workout snack, because most people, when they go to the gym or they have a practice or whatever it is, they don't get home in time to meet that 30-minute window. It's usually like, oh, I'm going to get home, I'm going to take a shower, and now I'm going to get dressed, and now I need to make something. We don't have time for all that. You want to get something in right then and there, okay? So I suggest bringing something with you that you can get into your mouth as soon as possible. So if you are needing additional help with this, you don't know exactly the amounts that you need to be taking in depending on your sport, and you want to figure that all out, I highly suggest you set up a free consultation with me. We'll talk about what your goals are, what you would like to accomplish, where you're stuck, and then I can explain how I can further help you. So you could just do that by scheduling that on my website, which is elitenutritionandperformance.com/consult, and I will drop that link below. But again, that's just a free consultation. We could talk a little bit about what your goals are, where you stand, where you're struggling, and then how I can help you with all of that. So thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.